We had over 50-mile-an-hour winds up here last night. I came outside a couple of different times contemplating putting some more bracing up on the shop, and really quite concerned. And the scary part is the more I looked at the shop, the more I could see the shop moving, the trusses moving with the wind. And I finally realized that it was beyond my control at that point, that I'd done what I could do. And all that I could do was hope and pray that nothing came down. I went to bed last night. It started raining early this morning. And I listened for the loud bang, the loud crash, and never really heard anything. And so it's cooled off dramatically. There's snow around us. There's not snow here, thank goodness. But it's just a reminder that we're in that window now of anything could change at any time. And so I need to get the roof on the shop and get it done ASAP. This week's video is going to be a little bit longer than usual, partly because I didn't do a midweek video, but also simply because there's just a whole lot of time crammed into this particular video. By the way, this Wednesday's midweek video will be a question and answer with Cedar and myself. It'll be about a 12 to 15 minute video. If you have a question or a topic that you would like Cedar and I to discuss, message us on Instagram at Red Poppy Ranch, and we'll pick a handful of them, and again, have about a 12 to 15 minute video. This week we had some crazy stuff going on. You saw the severe wind that came through, but then on top of that, the following day after the winds came through, we had a major drop in temperature and we had snow on the mountains around us. Although it's a little bit early in the year for snow, we know what's possible, and we definitely know what's coming. We still don't have enough firewood, in my opinion, but getting a roof on the shop is the number one priority right now. Part of the reason I didn't take time for the midweek video is just simply because I couldn't stop working on the shop. I was so concerned about wind and or rain damage to the shop that I didn't stop and take the time to put a video together like I usually do. There was a moment during that windstorm when I could see the winds were progressively getting worse. And as I stood up on the hill and I could watch the trusses swaying back and forth, I finally just had to go inside. While I hoped and prayed for the best, I couldn't stand and watch what the wind was doing to the shop. The next morning, after the winds passed through, it was obvious the winds were higher than we thought they were. I later found out that the winds were as high as 112 miles per hour south of Salt Lake. Many beautiful mature trees were toppled and quite a bit of damage was done. But thank goodness here at the ranch, we were fine. I have a billiards game on my phone that I play from time to time. By time to time, I mean every chance I get. My youngest two kids, Callie and Reed, also enjoy this game. I've enjoyed billiards or playing pool since I was probably 15 years old. As a matter of fact, I think it was my wife's boyfriend at the time that took me down to the local pool hall in our little community, and that started my long-term relationship with the pool hall. Lucky for me, my wife's relationship with that boyfriend didn't last too much longer, but I've enjoyed playing pool for many years. I've talked with the kids about putting a pool table in the shop, but not just any old pool table. It'll be a nice old full-size Brunswick pool table. Maybe I can even find an old antique pool table that I can restore, but something that plays true. Maybe I'll make a ping pong table cover for it so we can also play some ping pong. But I learned a lot hanging out in that pool hall. At that time in high school, I wasn't quite sure where I would fit in, but for some reason I enjoyed hanging out with all the misfits down at the pool hall. You had just about every walk of life hanging out down there. People that were literally homeless, in some cases living in their car in the parking lot. In other cases, you had large amounts of money exchanging hands over pool games. Oftentimes, I would find myself sitting back and observing what was going on more than participating, but it was a social experiment that I learned much from. One morning, while hanging out at the pool hall when I probably should have been at school, I watched the highest rated pool player in the state of Arizona play another man that came in from out of state, and I watched some serious action take place. And by action, I mean gambling. These two pool players didn't bet their own money. They had guys that followed them where they went and took the risk with their money. This guy that was the highest ranked professional pool player in the state of Arizona drove up to the pool hall in about a $700 Nissan truck. I learned this man had been on ESPN in a couple of different pool tournaments, and I just sat back and watched him interact and tried to wrap my head around what it would be like to be the highest rated pool player in the state of Arizona. As I listened to him talk to other people in the room, I learned he was trying to start a pest control company, but he didn't have enough money to buy the chemicals, the pump, and the sprayer to get this business off the ground. I paid attention to his appearance, and it was obvious that he hadn't showered in a couple of days, and he must not have cared a whole lot about what he looked like. He was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt that had seen better days. I watched him and this out-of-state pool player gamble back and forth and back and forth. And by the end of the day, tens of thousands of dollars had changed hands. But very little of that money went to these two pool players. As I got older, I would continue to hang out in that pool hall from time to time, but I didn't frequent that place as much as many other people did. I learned a lot in that place. I learned that I was one of the few people in there that had a job. I also learned that there was probably better things that I could do with my time. At some point after Cedar and I got married, I stopped going there. But I always loved playing pool. So I've told Callie and Reed that once the shop is finished, we'll find a pool table, and we'll have some fun as a family around that pool table. I've had a lot of experiences in my life where it seems that things could have gone one way or the other. While I would hang out in that pool hall, it was obvious there were people around me that had drug problems. Somehow I was able to avoid this. It was also quite obvious that a lot of alcohol would get consumed in the process. Again, thank goodness that wasn't for me. Along the way, I learned that a little bit of discipline and hard work would be required to get anywhere. I can still remember many a close call happening in my youth, but all of these experiences collectively make who I am. As I've been working on the eaves around the shop this week, it's been going very, very slow, partly because it just takes time to get things done right. I would venture to say I spent every bit of 3 days working on the eaves around the shop before I finally started laying the zip paneling on the roof. Once I started putting the zip paneling on the roof, I noticed Callie and Reed had come outside, and Callie said, "Dad, it's starting to feel like a shop. When are we going to get a pool table?" I told them they may have to wait until Christmas before we get a pool table, but having something like a pool table to focus on for the kids is fun. Our lives up here at Red Poppy Ranch has evolved into something that we look forward to living. While at times it felt like we were surviving or just simply getting by, now that's changing. While we still have a long, long way to go, we're slowly getting some of these things checked off the list. It will be interesting to watch my kids grow up and see what direction they go in life, and to see how living up here has influenced them, especially Callie and Reed. In theory, they're the ones that will have lived here the longest, so it will be interesting to see how this affects their lives. Cedar and I are incredibly grateful for what we have, but it wasn't that long ago that it was genuinely a daily struggle just to get by. We know the weather's going to change at some point. By this time next week, all of the paneling will be on the roof, and we'll be ready to put the underlayment down for the metal roofing. The next step will be doors and windows and insulation. I feel like most of the hard stuff associated with the shop has been done, but once it's airtight and we can have a fire in there to stay warm, that will obviously make it better. We have a whole bunch of dead maple trees up on the hill that I cut down 2 years ago that are waiting to be bucked up and stacked next to our existing firewood pile. We've got to get that done ASAP. It's been so long since we've had rain that the soil is dusty, and the first heavy rain we get, it's going to be a mud hole up here. For that reason, we've got to get the firewood piled up, and we've got to get some of these things done so we don't have to fight the mud at that point in time. Okay, I've got the entire back half of the shop roof done. I've got the eaves done around the entire shop. Monday, I will finish the shear on the roof. The eaves is what took the most time. I bet I spent 4 days, maybe 3.5 days this week on the eaves, trying to make it look right, trying to make sure that, this is something that I don't have to do again down the road, I guess. Some of the stuff, the little tedious stuff is just time consuming, but shearing the roof is not time consuming. That'll go really fast. I'm excited. I'm excited to get the roof on it. By the end, this time next week, not only should I have the roof finished, but I should have it dried in, and I should have all of the zip. That's my goal for next week, is to get all of the zip adhesive, all the zip tape installed. And then really, I could do doors and windows. I'll probably slow down a little bit at that point and go up there and finish the little cabin. But I need to get the tin on the roof and the windows in as quick as I can as well. So anyway, good productive week, but I'm ready to take a day off.